I kind of wanted to do a response video to Nick again, just give it a shot. He's part of this video, see what happens to it as it progresses. So just wanted to see if we can get him to address a couple of the points he ignored. The first one is the full employment thing, and the practical reality that we want as many people working as possible. We want people to be doing as much to contribute to society as possible. To create every incentive, to create every kind of mechanism that'll make that possible. And we certainly don't want to pay people to just spin around in a circle or to, break windows. And capitalism certainly creates lots of people spinning around in a circle, getting money for doing nothing. And there's lots of window breakers. There's lots of, the whole middleman marketing industry could be considered a window breaker. It's just a huge, giant expense for no value. This king of the hill kind of bullshit, who can outmaneuver with the right color can, or the sexiest model, or some other nonsense, and we're all paying for that crap. I always use Google as an example, but I mean, Google's a disgrace. It's pitiful. We're spending $10 billion of just wasted, thrown away money, just so companies can get some exposure. And even Nick played the game with it. He's always talking about his clicky ads, and never really thinking about the fact that little tractor money he made, that had to come out of something. Somebody has to pay for that, and who's paying for it? All the rest of us are paying for it. And do those companies get real value for the money they're paying? I don't think so. But it's the only game in town, because we haven't built any other structure that makes it possible. And for 1 year of Google revenues, $10 billion, we could certainly create an international Better Business Bureau or some other organization that would track sales, track user experiences, even look into the efficiency of companies. All kinds of information could be provided. We could sort of open source all these businesses, force them open, and we can make rational choices. But instead, we'll just keep playing this stupid capital waste game where we all pay a huge tax, and that's all it is. It's a Google tax to navigate the internet. To pay higher prices for really inefficient, ineffective, useless navigation. It's just garbage. So anyway, but there's a ton of that in capitalism. There's a huge incentive to cheat and steal, and let's not deny that. A huge incentive. Lots of rackets, lots of exaggerations, lots of small print. All of that crap is created by this greed incentive. And if you take that incentive out, you're not going to get all that crap. You're not going to get the lies and the bullshit. And if you open source all government businesses and put their books on the table, and prevent basically the employees being able to vote on their own working conditions, take away some of their power, that game's going to work. All you need is somebody to run the business. So make a counter argument that somehow a non-for-profit business, open source business, cannot function. That somehow it just can't be competitive. Of course it can, as long as it's playing by the same rules. But I mean, if it's got to play by a rule that says government employees can vote their own salary increases, well, yeah, that's a different rule, so it's not going to work. But anyway. So that's just one of the subjects. I mean, this whole economy thing, look, there's no point in, again, Nick is defending certain things and arguing about, oh, somebody's not paying back their debt, what a disgrace. It doesn't matter. Nobody's going to pay back any of this money. I mean, no one. So why not just acknowledge that truth? Nick, do you really think the American people are going to pay back the $13 trillion? Do you think you realistically think that there's some prospect that that's going to happen someday, that someday in the future they're going to, all even out and they're going to pay back all of that debt? Bullshit. There's no chance in hell that that's going to happen. And everybody who's buying bonds and buying the rest of this shit, why are they buying them? I mean, do they have some sort of prospect that the economics make any sense? Wages are going down, revenues to the government are going down. How is the government going to pay these bonds? And if interest rates go up at all, the government's bankrupt. It's finished. All revenues will have to go to pay to finance the debt. So there's no government. There's no fucking country anymore. So the bankruptcy is inevitable. I mean, and it just seems logical that you would simply declare it, simply state it, simply it's a fact, and fix the problem instead of just dragging this out into some sort of long, hard fantasy mess, because it's a fantasy. It's not going to get paid back. So all we have to do is figure out how do we divvy up what's real, what's left in this world economy that's actually real, and apportion it appropriately, rationally, reasonably, in the best interest of civilization. So let me get to another point, is about civilization. You keep defending the capitalist system. It's done us well. It's done us blah blah blah, and maybe that argument could be made in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s. But no, when we went back to slavery, which we essentially did, beginning in the 80s when we started exporting labor, it was nothing but slavery again. I mean, it's almost a worse contract than slavery. At least under slavery, the slave owner had to import the slave, and the slave wasn't cheap. You couldn't just import them easily. You had to take them all the way across the ocean, and had to survive the trip and all that crap. So it wasn't cheap. So you had to buy the darn thing in the first place. And in the second place, then you had to take care of it. You couldn't just let it die. So you had to make sure it could survive its slavery. You had to make its life at least meagerly satisfying enough, and not to kill it. You couldn't dump it in Nevada, molten metal. You had to make sure it didn't fall in the metal. You had to make sure it didn't die of poisoning. I mean, it was an investment. And now by doing the slavery at the hometown, in the home country of the slaves, now we don't have to worry about any of that stuff, because now the slaves are easy to replace. So you kill a Chinaman, who cares? Right? You just replace it with other Chinamen, right? They're disposable, completely disposable. So if you poison a few, who cares? You work them to death, who cares? They go insane, who cares? I mean, it just doesn't matter. There's absolutely no give a damn about their welfare whatsoever, because their training is accomplished in 2 months, and you can just, if they cut their hand off, so what? Just get a new one with a good hand. No obligations, no doctor bills, no medical anything, no benefit, no anything. And you're defending that crap. And again, you still aren't dealing with the argument that even if that was a fact of life, even if we were going to all accept that that's the way things should be, there's still plenty to do here. And the reason why plenty isn't getting done here is because all the investment capital is going to the slave labor, because they can make a bigger profit. And that's the only reason. It's not because there's nothing productive to invest in here. It's just that you can get a better return on slave labor than you can human labor, civilized labor. And that's it. And that's part of the problem, though, is that there's this limited, we're so dependent on capital to do anything. And so we must have some rich investor to decide to invest some surplus before anything can get accomplished. And that's really not the way it should work. We should be able to do the work first and get paid later thing, which a government can do. That's how all great civilizations did what they did, is they just said, here, you do this stuff, we'll give you some food and stuff, but you really won't get paid off till we conquer that other country and steal all their goodies, and then we'll pay you. And they didn't get paid up front. And the problem with capitalism is that, it's sort of a pay up front kind of deal. That's a lot, that limits the amount of capital available for investment in very productive projects. So there's plenty of projects for us to do right here that would be very productive in the long term, and it's just that no capitalist will invest in them. So the government should step in and do it. It should just say, okay, let's do this at a minimum cost, let's set it up, let's get it rolling, and we'll worry about paying for it later. But we will be able to pay for it because it'll be infinitely productive. So there is lots of Hoover dams still to be built. There's still lots of work to do that's productive. And again, I'll go back to this is not that complicated. I mean, you want to have people working. You want to have them building houses. You want to have them doing productive work. And if you capitalize everything and force everything to glean profit, you're going to miss out on the bulk of what is good for humanity. And especially if most of this work is going to be stupid work, just trying to pick somebody's pocket. That is not a productive job. And that's what a ton of business is all about. And then when you add in factors like the whole incorporation crap where no one's responsible, then every time something goes bankrupt, who pays? The consumers, because the debts aren't paid. It becomes a cost of doing business, completely unproductive. So all that waste, all that expense isn't felt by the rich, it's only felt by the consumers. They're left holding bags because the rich are allowed to escape accountability. And so you seem to be defending that kind of crap at every opportunity.